envisioned that music. So that's why I'm starting with Beethoven, because that flowed out of his mind, out of the incredible human spirit that is so uplifting. Beethoven. Obama, you say that he didn't build that, he didn't do that, he didn't write that. I say you lie. I say you're a fraud. I say that little child right there built those blocks. And other entrepreneurs came up with the idea of Legos so that she could later build that. The state did not do that. The state delivers the Soviet Union, Communist China, Mao Zedong. It creates North Korea. I mean, Cuba can't manufacture cars. They're driving old 50s and 60s vehicles. It's a joke. Continuing here. Moving on from Beethoven. 1984, Eric Blair, a.k.a. pen name George Orwell. His book, in a way, actually did come out of the state. The nightmare that he saw out of Stalin when he had been a communist and believed in it and went and fought in battlefields in Spain and other areas and got shot in the throat, you name it. He found out the communists were as bad as the fascists. And he worked in the BBC and propaganda during the war. And he discovered that these governments needed each other in tyranny and the governments were staging terror attacks. So he wrote essays about how 1984 was the nonfiction book he got published as fiction, basically, of what he had experienced and seen. So in a sick way, Obama, you're right. George Orwell didn't really write 1984. I mean, he did in all its incredible prose and piercing understanding of life. But what makes it so real is a lot of it is composites of what he witnessed in the Spanish Revolution and so much more. But again, you didn't write 1984, government. Your murderous exploits, though, was part of what propelled him and gave him the impetus to write it. So in a sick way, I guess Hillary says her favorite book's 1984. You're not supposed to use it as an instruction manual, though. Continuing here with the Mona Lisa. Do you think that the painter of the Mona Lisa got their inspiration from government and was able to do that with that eye and that skill because of you? Let's move on from the Mona Lisa to Rembrandt. What a Dutch painter, right? Just incredible light, and again, did that with a paintbrush and could capture the life in the humans and then bring it out in such a real way where it was even more human than human. He could capture that magic of humanity, whether it was a woman chopping up apples or whether it was an old man by candlelight writing. Rembrandt could capture that magic that is more human than human, that spark. And there's so many other examples where you could also take just casual lines like Picasso, but still capture that as well, but in a flowing movement that only took seconds to create. But again, you didn't build that, you didn't write that, you didn't paint that, you didn't compose that, you didn't perform that, you didn't do jack crap. Obama and the state did. They directed it. They're the great artists who create such nightmares as North Korea and Nazi Germany. They're the ones that create the hell that is Cuba, the hell that is Venezuela. They paint with large brushes in hundreds of millions of blood. Continuing, Frank Lloyd Wright, Falling Water and all those incredible homes that he built and designed for individuals all over the United States. You as an architect did nothing. You did nothing. You didn't build that. And of course, the Wright brothers, who started their own bicycle company, bicycles invented by what, Italian? Or bicycles invented by the Italians? Invented by European inventors. People argue who invented that or radio or anything. Wasn't government invented radio. I forgot Marconi. Like 5 other guys the same week announced it because human development and imagination and the 100th monkey syndrome had gotten to that point where that was developed. But again, government didn't develop it, didn't even understand it for decades. But side issue, the Wright brothers have a bicycle company, became moderately middle-class, wealthy, nouveau riche, new rich, to use the French. They became nouveau riche with their bicycle shops, their custom bicycle shops, because that's all there was. There wasn't big factories. With most great new inventions, it's small, like automobiles or trains. They were first built by little cobblers, little inventors. You know, I thought the state did it, though, even though 90+% of inventions always came out of individuals until Eisenhower warned us that we've been taken over by the military-industrial complex. Within 30 years, from the 30s to 1960, you can look this up, they flipped from over 90% of inventions being cobblers and small companies to government with 90% of the inventions, saying they invented it, going out with taxpayer money and buying up all the inventors and all the shops and sending the FBI to raid people like Nikola Tesla and others who were inventing things they didn't want out there, calling it disruptive technology. That's what they call it today. Now, the truth is, government has suppressed technology conservatively 35 years. Many estimates are 50, and that's part of their wild power trip now and all the underground bases and facilities is that they admit, oh, we got a lot of stuff you ain't seen. Yeah, you took human ingenuity, spied on them within it. They admit the NSA's main job, you're getting heavy knowledge here, folks. I hope you understand this. The NSA's main job is not trying to stop terror attacks and stuff that they're staging to get more power. It is spying on people to see trends coming, to be able to predict mass movement, future events. They really do have crystal balls now, but they're mathematical, and it's only general mass movements. And so, and of course, I told you that about 10 years before Google admitted it. They now say they have, quote, a crystal ball and can predict the future in mass movements. You can look that up if you're a new viewer and are still living in 1970. You think you're living in 2012, you're really living in 1970. I am living not in 2012, but in 2047, the year we're really at. You understand that? Oh, yeah. Anyways, I don't know if you can handle stuff this heavy, folks. I'm going to start letting you into the full breakdown analysis here. Now, the issue here is, I could have said 2045, it doesn't matter. That's where the globalists really are. With all of our stolen technology, they take underground, literally, in many cases, and into their national security complexes. They saw the power of the individual. They wanted to harness it so that finally mega-state could come. Finally, control-freak state could come. Finally, the hunchbacked, inbred globalists who hate humanity could feel like they were really superior to us when the whole time they've crept around in gangs like vampires, grabbing us like Little Red Riding Hood when they could. They're weak, and they know it. They're stunted spiritually and at every other level. And so here you have the Wright brothers, who invent the first aircraft and launch it by themselves at Kitty Hawk. Not the government, not you. And so they go and take over the research just by stealing massive amounts of money from the public. They bankrupt the economy by design, declare an emergency in 1933 with a reorganization, the Emergency Powers Act, begin getting people dependent, taking part of their paycheck to put into mega funds that the globalists could use to take over the rest of the world while getting you dependent. So that's the larger strategic program there, while suppressing technologies and suppressing our civilization at a lower level with faulty tech that has back doors built into it where they can spy and surveil and control us, while their high-tech grid has been built off of our ingenuity and systems, which they don't even know how to properly use from a tyrannical view because they're stunted, even though they have the computer interfaces to give them answers, because they don't have full spectrum analysis because they are spiritually blind. That is the larger issue we're dealing with here. Now, continuing here, Ben Franklin. Let's move along now to Ben Franklin here. Ben Franklin, love him, hate him. He was probably an Illuminist, but he thought he was rebelling against the church and things. Discovered electricity, harnessed it, invented lightning rods that have saved trillions in property damage, invented hundreds and hundreds of things, was writing books when he was like 14 years old, traveling all over the Atlantic on ships, an incredible life, absolutely hated big government and talked about how nasty and terrible it was, and of course helped pioneer this republic that we built. Ben Franklin hated big government. Ben Franklin did it without you, Obama, and all the control freaks and what you try to do to humanity so you can sit on top of a pile of skulls. Ben Franklin says, go to hell, Obama and Stalin and Lenin and Hitler. Go to Hades, where you belong. Get out of here. We're sick of you parasites, and the sleeping giant that is humanity is waking up to you. Continuing here, I want to look finally at Gutenberg. You know, Gutenberg, 500 plus years ago, you can see one of the 5 books they originally printed of the Bible right out here at one of the museums in Austin. In fact, I meant to send a team. It was 2 weeks ago, my mom went and saw it. It's not always here. We should go see that Gutenberg Bible. They got a bunch of the other first books printed. It is magnificent. You go right in with cameras, guys. In fact, I want to go over there next week. I went to the local the Natural History Museum for the other piece, because I'm one of those evil people that's into all this information. You can say, oh, a printing press, big deal, print a book. Hey, there were people tried to develop printing presses for hundreds of years. They got burned at the stake or killed because the system knew that they couldn't control information anymore with a small technocracy on top, cloistered if those printing presses got out. So Gutenberg finally, because he was in a freer country, despite all the oppression, he was able to put out a printing press that worked and was able to deploy it, and it revolutionized the world. It is to them what the internet is today and beyond, because without that, you wouldn't have the internet. I mean, it is the equivalent of light speed propulsion. It is the equivalent of anti-grav. It is the equivalent of transmitting data that our fellow species members have developed and that would be taught and then lost because you had to speak it down through the ages and try to write it down, and then the nuances could be lost. This incredible thing of language was released to us by the Gutenberg press and Gutenberg. And it was done despite the fact that governments and the church opposed it. Again, he built it. You didn't, scumbag. Shut up, liar. My God, you're an abomination. And all of your ilk that create North Korea hellholes, you are the plague. You are the enemy. You are the antichrist of the human spirit. You are a total threat to everything. You cancers. I will rout you out. By God, I've sworn on the altar of God, eternal resistance to every form of tyranny over the mind of men. You are blasphemous. You want our minds, you want our souls, and you ain't getting it. No matter how many people you pump up on Prozac and the rest of it, they've still got spirits, and we're going to reach them. I want to thank government for bureaucracy, for dusty, dirty government buildings. They're so lazy they can't even mow the grass at government buildings here in Austin. I want to thank you for all the pot-bellied people you've ruined, taking their destiny away. I want to thank you for the feudalism, the dark ages created by government suppressing technology. I want to thank you for everything you've done, you trash. Folks, it's natural to hate these people. This is your normal instincts. You have it for a reason. Your brain is incredibly powerful. You haven't turned it loose yet. It recognizes the enemy. Our species defeated all of the big cats, the bears, the diseases, the weather, everything by the grace of God, the tools we were given. We are not meant to fail because a bunch of psychopaths get together and try to dumb us down so they can squat on top of us in the mud. Activate humanity. Unleash your potential now. Don't worry, it won't happen overnight, but the countdown has begun. The thawing has begun. I can see it. I can see the DNA, the electricity firing. I can see the pistons begin to hammer. Don't worry if black smoke blows out the back of the engine at first. That's only humanity coming to life. Get ready, because what the technocrats and collectivists fear has already been released. And nothing but God in heaven will stop it. And God in heaven won't stop it, because God is the author of it and the author of your destruction from the foundations of this world. That's it for this edition of InfoWars Nightly News. We'll see you back tomorrow on the radio and back here on television, God willing.